Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Eloisa Ramos, and I'm here with my daughter Sonia and my friend Teresa. We are studying the text of A Course in Miracles. We are on chapter 11, section 7, the condition of reality. Okay, paragraph 1. The world, as you perceive it, cannot have been created by the Father. For the world is not as you see it. God created only the eternal, and everything you see is perishable. Therefore, there must be another world that you do not see. The Bible speaks of a new heaven and a new earth. Yet this cannot be literally true, for the eternal are not recreated. To perceive anew is merely to perceive again, implying that before or in the interval between, you were not perceiving at all. What then is the world that awaits your perception when you see it? Okay, so in the previous section, we were talking about the world as perception. And here it continues again. Okay, the world as you perceive it, okay, cannot have been created by the Father, for the world is not as you see it. So this is, can be a little difficult to grasp, because we tend to think that the world is something that exists on its own, separate from us. But the reason for that is that we use the body as the reference point for the idea of us. Okay, so if I use the body as a reference point for seeing with the eyes, then I, will believe that there is this separate world that exists in and of itself, with physical objects and things and other bodies. Okay, and so that's what this is talking about. That's the world that is not as you see it. So that's how bodies see the world, as separate from themselves, with other bodies walking around as people, and with objects that are separate things. Okay, but all these things are perishable. They come and go. Nothing in this world that we perceive lasts forever. That's why we have all this maintenance to do, whether it's on the car, whether it's doctor visits for the body, or whether it's the yard, the house, everything. There's always this effect on it by time, by weathering, by the environment, all of that. So God did not create that. God created only the eternal, because God is eternal. So God cannot create unlike itself. It only creates like itself, the eternal. Okay, and everything we see with our eyes is perishable. Okay, therefore, there must be another world that we do not see. And so the other world would be seen through the Holy Spirit vision, as a perception of innocence. So the world that we perceive that's perishable is a projection of guilt. So the Bible speaks of new heaven and a new earth. Okay, but it wants to be sure that we're not taking this literally. Okay, the eternal cannot be recreated. So technically it's not new. Okay, it just means that we are perceiving it anew, or we're perceiving it again because we have forgotten that way of seeing, that through vision, implying that before or in the interval between, you were not perceiving at all. So, okay, so it's a world perception, but what it means is that we're not perceiving at all is that the world of the perishable is really a dream. Okay, because it's not perceiving reality. So it can't really be perceiving. It's like someone that's asleep at night, that has a dream. And yes, we're perceiving, when we wake up, we can remember the dream. So it's as if we were perceiving what was going on in the dream, okay? But that's not really perception, because there was nothing really there. There wasn't anything there to perceive. So what then is the world that awaits your perception when you see it? Okay, so it's saying, okay, well then what is reality? Okay, so let's find out here what it says about that. Paragraph 2, Sonia.
Every loving thought that the Son of God ever had is eternal. The loving thoughts his mind perceives in this world are the world's only reality. They're still they're still perceptions because he still believes that he is separate. Yet they are eternal because they are loving. And being loving, they are like the Father and therefore cannot die. The real world can actually be perceived. All that is necessary is a willingness to perceive nothing else. For if you perceive both good and evil, you are accepting both the false and the true by making no distinction between them. It's basically saying we can't see duality if we want to perceive the real world. But what I got confused on is the line 6, the real world can actually be perceived. Is it saying that the reflection can be perceived of the real world? Because you can't actually like see with the body's eyes the real world, like through perception. So is it talking about just the reflection? Because if you're just perceiving nothing else but the
Yeah,
loving thoughts. Oh, okay.
yeah, it's talking about true perception, right? Which is the happy dream, which is the reflection of the loving thoughts that are eternal. So it would be a reflection of sameness, of oneness, of peace, of beauty, of joy. And it would be that experience in the world, because we still believe we're in the world. So as long as we still have a body, we're going to have an experience of a world, because we bring the world with us when we believe that we incarnated as a body. um, so so to perceive the real world would be to perceive nothing that is unreal. So it would be to not believe any of the false thoughts of attack and separation and conflict. It's a little bit, let me see if I can give you an example. So we were watching that soap opera, right? It's a Korean soap opera. So Sonia likes to watch them, and I watch it with her. And so this one was, we don't usually watch these kind of violent, graphically violent, movies or episodes, but this one, it was about mafia. Okay, the mafia, and of course there's killing, and a lot of it was very graphic. It was very bloody. Okay, but the mafia guy was actually, there was a good guy and a bad guy, just kind of like what it says here. You perceive both good and evil. Okay, so the mafia guy, the good guy, was actually kind of being portrayed as the hero. And then of course there was this corporate head who was, quote unquote, completely evil, right? So he was the bad guy. And so the stuff that they were doing in there was pretty, incredibly cruel, okay, by the standards of, physical pain and all of that. So torture and all of that. But what was really interesting to me is that it used to be that I would not even watch anything like that, okay, because it was too disturbing, too disturbing for me. But what was interesting is that I was able to watch this And when I was looking at the head evil guy, okay, I couldn't see evil there. Okay, just couldn't see it. He was a really, really good actor, but it was just not believable to me anymore. And so I was really able to watch the whole thing and not get disturbed by the images that I was seeing. Um, so, uh, so I think that part of my mind can recognize that the idea of good and evil, uh, that none of it is true. Whereas before, I would definitely invest in the good guy and take a side, and then I would have to make the bad guy real too, because I've invested in one side. There has to be an opposing side. So that's what Sonia's talking about in duality. Once we take sides in duality, we're stuck with both opposing ideas, and we are having to accept both that are false as true. And therefore, we're not making any distinction between them. So, um, uh, so that's why the real world is lost to us, because the real world is not dualistic. What is true, and it's loving, period. So there's nothing to contrast it with. There's nothing to judge or compare, because it's all good. Everything else is not real. It's an illusion, and therefore the mind doesn't give it any mind. You pay no mind to it. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, number 3.
The ego may see some good, but never only good. That is why its perceptions are so variable. It does not reject goodness entirely, for that you could not accept, but it always adds something that is not real to the real, thus confusing illusion and reality. For perceptions cannot be partly true. If you believe in truth and illusion, you cannot tell which is true. To establish your personal autonomy, you try to create unlike your father, believing that what you made is capable of being unlike him. Yet everything true is like him. Perceiving only the real world will lead you to the real heaven, because it will make you capable of understanding it. I'm not sure I really understand this.
So,
so the ego cannot see a non-dual world.
yes.
So the ego cannot see if there's good, there's evil, according to the ego. So it's, as long as you're in that frame of mind, you will not see the oneness. It's like you were just talking about in your example, when you were coming to the place that the evil didn't disturb you because you saw no distinction between the good and the evil, because it really is all one.
And it's not true. So I wasn't taking it seriously at all.
Of course not, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also talking about a matter of degree here. So in eternity, there is no matter of degree.
Yeah.
So
you can't have like an evil guy and a really evil guy and a good guy, because we're all good.
Yeah.
I mean, in this world that we call our reality, we're all innocent.
Yes. So for the ego, see the first line, the ego may see some good, but never only good. Because it looks at good in terms of a matter of degree, because it has to allow for there being an opposite to good. So you can't be completely good, right? That would mean there was no bad at all. So that would be non-dualistic. And the ego, because it represents separation, it represents a split mind. So no matter how good someone is, there's always going to be a little bit of doubt for the ego. They can turn on you, turn bad. And that is why its perceptions are so variable. So yeah, so we make exceptions to everything. So you can consider yourself good, or you can consider yourself bad, but you can always compare yourself and say, well, I'm not as bad as he is. So that makes me feel better. Or he's worse than me. So, it's, yeah, we play with the degree of good and evil to, let's see, to make exceptions, basically, or to have double standards, which of course it's all about making different and making special and, playing rejection or whatever, control or whatever we want to use it for. Yes, but line 4, it always adds something that is not real to the real. So it distorts it. See, and then it's confusion, illusion with reality. Because that's why, non-duality cannot be reconciled with duality. Because if you try to reconcile it, you try to bring the truth into the illusion, and kind of, what's the word? Hold on to your beliefs, but still believe that, God favors me, or that, you're the one that's going to go to hell, but not me, that kind of thing. So it maintains the belief in separation, right? That we're not one, or that I can get away with, I can get away with doing things and not suffer the consequences, kind of a thing. So there's always some kind of dissociation or separation. Yeah, line 5, perceptions cannot be partly true. So they're either all true, or they're, even with a little bit that's false, it's going to be false. They can't stay true with a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of false. And so that's why we get confused, and we can no longer really tell the difference between true thoughts and false thoughts, is because we've tried to reconcile them. We've tried to reconcile the truth and the illusion. Because that's the whole point, is we're trying to blur the line. And that's how, number 7, that's a way to establish our personal autonomy. You try to create unlike your father. So we try to hold on to our ego and believe that we are a separate autonomous self, that, hey, I can do whatever the hell I want, and either I'm going to believe that, in the end, I'm going to be punished and I don't care, or in the end, I'm just going to repent and it's going to be, fine with God, and I don't have to worry about it. So I can just do whatever the hell I want. And I dissociate from the consequences. The ego dissociates from the body. So you literally get stuck in situations where you separate the pleasure from the pain. So, a lot of the addictions have that, where you get hooked on the pleasure and then dissociate from the pain that's showing up in the body, so that you have to keep numbing yourself with a drug in order to maintain that dissociation. Because otherwise, the pain, if you let go of the dissociation, there's going to be so much pain held in the body that it's very unbearable. A lot of that shows up like in the withdrawal pains and that kind of stuff. So let's see. Yes. So we believe okay, that we can make ourselves into something that is no longer like God. Believing that what you made is capable of being unlike him, capital H. So now we believe that we are, guilty, that we are sinful, that we are worthless, that we are, let's see, that we are no longer loved by God. That's what we believe, that we cannot be forgiven. So literally we're abandoning our own self with those beliefs, because we're separating from the love of God. And then we're saying, yeah, and too bad, you can't be forgiven. So that's it. So that's a denial, and that's a sickness. So that's a denial of the truth. The truth is, yet everything true, line 8, is like him. But if we deny that, that's what the sickness is that needs healing, because it will show up in suffering and experiences of sickness and pain and, death. So, yeah. Okay, number 4. Let's see. The perception of goodness is not knowledge, but the denial of the opposite of goodness enables you to recognize a condition in which opposites do not exist. And this is the condition of knowledge. Okay. Without this awareness, you have not met its conditions. And until you do, you will not know it is yours already. You have made many ideas that you have placed between yourself and your creator, and these beliefs are the world as you perceive it. Truth is not absent here, but it is obscure. You do not know the difference between what you have made and what God created, and so you do not know the difference between what you have made and what you have created. To believe that you can perceive the real world is to believe that you can know yourself. You can know God because it is his will to be known. The real world is all the Holy Spirit has saved for you out of what you have made. And to perceive only this is salvation, because it is the recognition that reality is only what is true. Okay, so this is a really good summary of pretty much of perception. Okay, perception of goodness is not knowledge. Okay, it's still part of perception. So true perception that sees only goodness, okay, is not knowledge. Okay, but it is the denial of opposites. It's saying what God is love and goodness, and it can have no opposite. Okay, and so the denial of opposites is really the letting go of duality. So it enables you to recognize a condition in which opposites do not exist. So that would be true perception, would be Holy Spirit vision. Okay, and it is this condition that we must meet. That's the title of the section, the conditions of reality. And this is the condition of knowledge. So true perception is necessary, or the perception of reality is necessary for God to take the next step, which is knowledge. Without this awareness, you have not met its conditions. And until you do, you will not know it is yours already. So another way to say this is that true perception is still a dream, but it's a happy dream. So we have chosen to be happy rather than hold on to our beliefs that are distorted, and believe that we are right as being separate from God. That's why this says you have made many ideas that you have placed between yourself and your creator. So the ego thought system are ideas that we place between ourself and our creator, because they say that we are separate from our creator and are no longer the way he created us. And these beliefs are the world as you perceive it. So that is the perception of a world of separation, because that's what we believe we are. And that's the belief system that we're projecting onto what seems to be, something separate from us that gets reflected back to us. So it's not that truth is absent here, but we have obscured it. We've just made it, we've hidden it from ourselves. Because we do not know the difference between what we have made and what God has created. And so we do not know the difference between what we have made and what we have created. So if we believe that we can perceive the world, the real world, then it's the same belief that we can know ourselves as we were created. So it is the, let's see, it is the, it's the desire for the truth too. It's that inner spiritual journey to come to know what we truly are, which means that we are willing to let go of all the ideas that we made about what we think we are. And it's not that it's an achievement, okay? It's that line 8 says you can know God because it is his will to be known. So the spiritual journey is not an accomplishment, it's not an achievement. That's what the ego would, want us to think, okay? It is the will of God. It is simply recognizing that our will is the same as the will of God. So we're not actually doing anything. We're undoing the belief that our will is not the same as the will of God. And undoing is not doing anything. So there's no personal accomplishment at all. Yeah, the real world is all that the Holy Spirit has saved for you out of what you have made. So it's our link to truth. It's our link to God. It is the remembrance of the presence of love as our true self, as our true identity. And to perceive only this, which is holy vision, is salvation, because it is the recognition that reality is only what is true, and what is false is not there. It's illusion. It's not there. So why believe any of it? It's like the movie. It's an illusion, right? It's all made up. There's actors, and so why believe any of it? Why identify with the characters? Why invest? Why take sides? And get all what's the word? Go through an experience that's visceral when none of it is true. So we can do that with the world also, once the mind begins to recognize that that only loving thoughts are true, which is what it started with over here. Let's see. Yeah. So like paragraph 2, every loving thought that the Son of God ever had is eternal. The loving thoughts his mind perceives in this world are the world's only reality. Yeah. Okay. So unless there's any questions, we can stop. So you can also call it holy perception. and you know, we can have the experience of a holy instant. And of course, the miracle, you know, is really convincing evidence that only reality is true. So sickness is not true. Okay, sickness is not a loving thought; it's an attack thought. And that's why the miracle can heal, and all symptoms, you know, are undone. But you know, the miracle happens in the mind; it does not happen in the body, because the body is part of the world of illusion, that is false. So it's the recognition of the truth that heals and that sets us free from the identification with the perishable, includes the body. Okay, all right, so the condition of reality. So that was that's the true perception that that the decision to forgive and the miracle provides, that is the condition for knowledge, which ultimately is the release of all perception. So that's the waking up of the mind, you know, the from sleep. We were talking about waking to redemption previously. So here's the first condition in order to waking up to redemption. Yeah. Okay. All righty. So unless you have any questions, Teresa, before we go? No? Okay. All right. Till next time. Bye.